All right, what's up, guys? Welcome to a little unusual live stream here on Drums and Drams. Give me 1 second. Got to close the door the rest of the way. Okay, let's make sure we're good to go here. Okay, guys, so this is I don't know if you want to call it a special stream, because I'd like to start doing this a little bit more often, but this is going to be a Scotch-only stream for Scotch Sunday. And so I know that a lot of people watch Scotch Sunday, after the fact, because they're typically going to be videos, reviews. I've been doing a little bit of like, hey, I want, not blind, but like, best Scotch, best 18-year Scotch, or like great value 18 Scotch. I've done some stuff like that where there's no bottle actually listed on the picture. So a lot of people watch this stuff after the fact. To do a live stream like this, which is probably going to be, I would say this is going to be over an hour. Maybe that audience is not going to like this, or maybe that audience is going to love the fact that we're diving a little bit deeper and doing stuff like we do on the channel normally with American whiskey and other stuff on Thursday nights. So I think maybe once a month we'll start doing some of these live streams on Scotch Sunday. And I promise they won't all be this late. Starting at 10 p.m. Eastern is a little bit late. I know I'm tired. I played a concert today already, and been a long weekend of shows. That's why I look like I'm ready for bed a little bit, but we got some Scotch to enjoy. And in fact, we have some great Scotch to enjoy. You can see the table in front of me is covered in samples. This is a fraction of the samples that have been sent in over the last, month, 2 months, basically, since things have taken off really for the channel. A lot of people represented here on the table. Of course, you saw the thumbnail, going to be focusing on these black arts. And we're going to do that fairly early on in the stream because I want my palate to be fresh as we dive into some, really remarkable Scotches, highly aged Bruichladdich, and, 4 different years of that: 4.1, 8.1, 9.1, 10.1. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. I've got some Kilkerran that I wanted to taste. I've got some Kavalan, and you guys, again, I've been a little bit out of the Scotch realm the last couple of years, so if I mess up any pronunciations, Kavalan, tell me in the chat. I'd like to get these things right. And what else? There was one more thing. Oh, some Highland Park cast strength, which is going to be a fun one. I've got a lot of different glassware out. We've got some warm-up pours here. You can see I pulled out my Bruichladdich for the occasion. And I forgot I had this Islay barley. So I'm going to check the chat here, and we're going to hang out like a normal live stream. This is not going to be one of those things where I'm trying to kind of do it without the live chat. It's not that. This is a straight up live stream, but I'm just trying not to do it for a full 2 hours. So I forgot I had this Islay Barley 2009. This is years old at this point. And so this is going to be my warm-up pour for the evening. Oh, I forgot how much I like this stuff. Okay, so let's... Brian says Kavalan. Or is it Kavalan? Kavalan. It's stuff that I should know, right? I can talk about the flavors. We can talk about the profile of it, but if I can't say it, then I'm an idiot. I say Kavalan. Yeah, who knows? Who knows? But I want to say hello to some folks in here. Kyle Taylor says Scotch time. Yes, it is Scotch time. Hit that like button, by the way, guys. I know we're going to have a smaller turnout Sunday night, but that is A-okay. We're not doing this content for the popularity. I know Scotch content gets a little less love, but it's kind of fun because I've been getting a lot of comments on American whiskey videos. Why do you get to the point, man? Why are you talking so long? A lot of those videos are things where I say, hey, I'm about to talk for a long time. You can skip ahead, and I still get those comments. But for Scotch videos, I think we like to nerd out a little bit more, which is fun. So let's get a pour of this Islay barley. Let me know if you're sipping on anything this evening. And this is coming in at that kind of standard 50% ABV. 6 years old, bottled in 2015. Wow. So this is definitely a little bit older one. All right, good to see you, Roy. He says I can actually watch you this time. Very excited. Yeah, 4.1 was the last one by Jim McEwen. And I've watched that. When I first got into whiskey, I watched that documentary that The Golden Dram or something like that. But yeah, this is going to be exciting. So I'm going to keep scrolling. I see everybody in here. It's so good to see you. Thank you. Yeah, I forgot to change my clocks. I'm 5 minutes late, Jay. Always got to do a 5-minute hold in show business. Not that this is show business, but we have started with the orchestra. Instead of saying that we're starting our concerts at 8 o'clock for like the orchestra schedule, we just say 8:05 because it's, it is always going to be that way. Carter says, my wife is watching the Oscars. This is the perfect escape. Yeah, I'm not. I'm good. When I was growing up, I would watch the Grammys, but that stuff has gone downhill for sure. Okay. Let's keep going. Good to see you. Blackheart 4.1 stashed away, Carter. Guys, what is a 4.1 Blackheart going for these days? Jeb, still looking for... Jeb, I sent you that Macallan, that 1996 Macallan, man. Still not doing it for you, huh? Michael, I definitely didn't have to do my hair tonight. I'm showered. I'm ready for bed. I'm like, I got to throw a hat on. Yeah, Whiskey BS. Yeah, Brian says it's a lot of sample bottles. Yes, it is. Okay, I'm almost caught up to the bottom here, it looks like. Avery, nice to see you on here Sunday. So cheers, guys. Little Isla Barley. Having to pour my only scotch, Bunnahabhain 12. I've got a 2023 Avery. I also have a sample of the 2022, which I heard was pretty darn good. That's going to be on a video coming up. Brett, killing me with this late live, but you can't tease me with some Blackhearts. They're bucket list pours. Yeah, I've tasted, so the Blackhearts we're tasting tonight, I've now tasted all 4 of them, even if just like a teeny little sip of the 10.1, because I only have an ounce of that one. But I've spent a little bit of time with the 9.1, 8.1, and the 4.1 I've had a sip of, but I didn't spend a lot of time with it, and yeah, this is going to be exciting. Yeah, Amy says we've had some crazy Scotch lives. Let's do this. Yes, let's do this. All right. Jesse, what's up? Getting into that 4.1. We'd still be waiting for 10. I love that comment. Mike, man of the hour. One of the men of the hour. I mean, so many folks are represented tonight with some of these pours that we're going to be tasting. And Mike is someone who sent in these 8.1 and 9.1 samples of Blackheart. So thank you, Mike. Jesse, and then Lido as well sent the 10.1. Okay, so let's get into it now. I think I'm all caught up, and if I missed something, just resend it in the chat. Real quick before we get into those Blackhearts, this Isla Barley has like a little bit of a sulfur note to it. It's got that thing that I talk about sometimes, that kind of industrial, like wet stone, wet rock, gravelly minerality. This has a little bit of a cigarette ash kind of smokiness. Maybe not cigarette. Yeah, it's not Lagavulin campfire. I mean, this is maybe a little bit more towards that cigarette ash, I guess. But besides that, there's kind of a great like lemon cake note. Yeah, and just great spice. Just overall, just a great oak spice profile. I mean, at 6 years old, like when I look at the Classic Lottie, this doesn't blow me away. I mean, it's a fine entry-level pour. I don't rave about this the same way that I think a lot of people do. I mean, value, great. Availability, great. Sure. But I would much rather take this Isla Barley. Now, I don't know the comparison of price. I picked this Isla Barley up like 3 or 4 years ago, and it's been open all that time. But I think it's remarkable on the nose. Given 6 years old, I think this is great stuff. So 4.1 is still going for $460. I mean, is it really going for that, or like that's probably around SRP, right? But I would imagine it's at auction for higher than that, right? Okay. So we have a lot of places we can go tonight with all of these scotches. The Blackhearts are here, and I will, as we taste these, I will pull up the information about proof and things like that. And if you guys happen to know anything about these releases, I think some of it is a little bit obscure with the Blackhearts. But if you happen to know things that you want to drop in the chat, please educate me along the way as well. I mean, we're doing this together. Now, the other ones that we have is just the Kavalan or Kavalan. Someone tell me how to actually say that. Is it So how do you say this? Kavalan Soliste, and then Vino Barrique. Yeah, I don't know. The color's amazing, and I've tasted this once at home. So we're going to taste that, and let's see where the other one. There's the Kilkerran 16. I also have the Kilkerran 12 hiding out here. But we can just see where the night takes us with some of these other samples that I have in front of me. Okay, and this is from Javier, a lot of these as well. 4.1's out there, 700. Cool. All right, well, I'm gonna get these black arts poured out. And then we'll get them resting in the glass here for just a bit. What's up, David Babcock? We don't need to go crazy. We don't need to pour too much of these things. A little bit's gonna go a long way. Jesse says the Kilkerran 12 is a fantastic shelfer. Love it for the price. Yeah, we don't get Kilkerran here in Ohio. At least I don't, unless it's a new thing. We've traditionally not gotten Kilkerran here. So you have to go, I think, over to Indiana is a good option. I think down to Kentucky, I think they've got it. Excuse me. 100% pure mustard. Kavalan. I say Kavalan, you say potato. 100% pure mustard. For those who don't like peat yet, I would suggest Campbelltown Lock. I've heard about this, and I need to get myself a bottle. Yes, it has that funk, but more smoke than peat, and it's only $60. Solid, fairly complex for the price. And what is the main component of that blend? Would it be Glen Scotia? All right. So let's get into these black arts, and then we'll carry on. I mean, the black arts are going to be a little bit lower proof than some of the other things I'm going to be tasting tonight. So here's what I want to do. I want to start with the most recent that I've got, which is the 10.1. We're going to start there. 45.1% ABV. All right. So let's check this out. There's Lito. Good to see you, man. Thanks for sending this sample and so many others, too. I've got your Talisker and your dimple and everything in front of me here. So here we go. Black Art 10.1. Ooh, okay. Wow, so this is kind of like... first impression would be kind of like a chocolate-covered raisin vibe to this. You know, oftentimes when you get that classic kind of sherry cask feel on the nose for certain things, your mind automatically goes to these like dry red fruit notes, and there's that particular like sherried quality that comes out of the glass. This feels a little bit different than that. Like there are still these dark fruit notes, but it's more in the realm of like dark purple fruits. It's not quite as dry on the nose, at least for me. There's a good kind of leather note in there, but this chocolate, so these dark purple fruits, a chocolate note. This is nice, and it's not what I expected, I guess. Color on this, very good, very dark, maybe the darkest of the bunch actually. The 9.1's got a little bit of that too, but. Roy just sent a $50. Oh, $50 super chat, Roy. Jeez, man. I don't think I've gotten it, but I appreciate it. Appreciate you. I don't know if you sent it on here or directly or whatever. But that's awesome. I'm going to get this on the palate, come back to the nose. There's a few things in here that I can't quite wrap my head around. And I don't want to relate things to bourbons, you know? That like I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. So on the palate, let's get this 10.1. Ooh. Wow. Yeah, to me that 10.1 I don't know the exact casking on this. There's the feeling of kind of a heavy PX sherry and like a port. I'm somewhere between PX sherry and port. It's sweet. It's not very dry. It's not like almondy and dry like an Oloroso sherry cask might give you. To me, again, this is like dark, sticky purple fruits, blackberry, black and purple fruits, but a little bit fresher. Yeah, that's very nice. And before I keep going with that, I mean, let me just put it next to another one of these. So let's go 9.1. They don't say Lido. I seem to remember that now that we're talking about it, that they don't talk about that stuff. Oh, Roscoe's drinking some Oogie. Nice. Okay. All right. So yeah, like again, I'm going to try to drill down on these and give you really, more specific notes. But that 10.1 to me, everything that I've talked about with these fresh dark fruit notes, this syrupy quality, this chocolate note weaving its way through, this leather. And on the palate, just the drinking experience of it, to me, it's very broad. And as it hits the front of the palate and it starts to spread out, it just is very enveloping. It feels like full, almost as if you're drinking some sort of like concentrated fruit syrup. It actually has that element where you taste it, and as it ramps up on your palate, it just feels more and more enveloping as it goes. So I really like the drinking experience of that 10.1. And frankly, with the flavor profile, I kind of prefer the freshness of that with those dark notes. So like, let's go to the 9.1 quickly. And the 9.1 feels much more sour. And actually, I would call this tart. This has like a tart element to it. It smells like kind of an orange cranberry type sauce. Like, cranberry can be very tart. It's got some of that. Like cranberry or pomegranate kind of tartness on the nose. And it feels a little more obviously, again, I don't know, but if I had to place it, it feels a little more like obviously sherried on the nose is the way I would classify that, where you do get those more red fruits, less dark, less black purple fruits, more red, and they're a little bit drier. They're more tangy. There's a honey element in here. And surprisingly kind of like a toasted cornbread note, which is a bourbon note, but it's coming through loud and clear on the 9.1. So with those deep purple fruits, you also smell smoke on the smoke on the water. That's funny. That's funny. Kyle Taylor just won a Benroma 21 at auction, 50 pounds under SR. Wow. Nice. Yeah, please hit that like button, guys. Okay. Roy said Black Art 4.1 versus Vino Barrique. We could do it. We could do it. Black Art. Let's do Black Art 9.1, and let's check out the. So 9.1 is 1% less ABV. So Black Art 10.1 was 45.1. 9.1, which we're into now, is 44.1. All right, let's get this on the palate. Oh, yeah. Gripping, dry on the front of the palate. Not too dry, but it grips with that fruit, with those fruit notes. Yeah, I'm telling you, it's like this cranberry orange kind of thing on the front of the palate. Something, some kind of dessert pastry element in here too. The finish is pretty dry on this 9.1. I think sherry lovers are really gonna, this is a sherry lover's dream, this 9.1, especially if you like that grip, if you like heavy sherry influence, this is gonna give it to you. And that 10.1, going back and forth between these. Yeah, a lot more fruit on the 9.1. It's more obvious on the nose. it just jumps out of the glass and hits you. Even with those slightly lower ABV, 10.1 actually smells significantly older, even though I don't think there's, I don't even think there's an age difference between these, right? I think they're both 29 years. But the 10.1 comes off a little bit darker, a little bit more aged, and certainly relaxed. As somebody who likes to drink high-proof stuff, I feel like I would prefer the 9.1 because of its grip. It has that kind of red wine feel on the palate, that tannic nature. But I think I actually like the 10.1 a little bit better because it retains freshness in the dark fruit profile. It never goes too heavy into the drier notes. Brett's pouring an Octomore now, bro. So you're the choice is go to bed, which is the ultimate act of relaxation, or to drink Octomore 13.1, which has to be on the other end of the spectrum. The polar opposite of going to bed at night is drinking Octomore 13.1. That's fun. Oh, Roy, dude, thank you so much, man. Thank you, Roy. $50 super chat says, hope this comes through. Great job, Cam. Thanks. We're trying, man. We're going to keep the channel moving. And if I am talking a little softer tonight, it's because, Sarah's asleep right now. And I'm winding down. Scotch, to me, little less boisterous than American whiskey. And that's fine. It's kind of nice to, wind down with you. But except for Brett. Brett's not winding down. Brett's winding up. He's injecting he's injecting phenols straight into his brain. Middle Earth Collector says, Sean, I actually have a sample of the Victoriana. We could get into that tonight if you remind me after this Black Art flight. Middle Earth Collector, I mainly drink neat too. Does anyone drink with a round ice ball in their drink? I just got 4 of the molds to make the ice balls. I used to, and when I'm hanging out with friends and stuff, depending on like the environment, I'll totally still drink on ice. Sometimes even a scotch. Like if you get a high-proof peated scotch or something that could handle it, I'm not opposed to it. Particularly if you're outside. I find that peated, any amount of peat in scotch does really well when I'm outside. And if it's cooled down, I also don't mind it. I'm not in enthusiast mode at that point. I'm in just drink and enjoy mode. Pure Mustard says, my bad, Campbelltown Lock is all 5 brands. Springbank, Longrow, Hazelburn, Kilkerran, and Glen Scotia. I didn't realize that. Definitely don't get much, if any, Kilkerran in the blend. Lito, for some reason, I think Sauterne when I drink the 10.1. That, Lito, that's interesting because in my mind, there's like, not only I could see that, but I could also see like a little Moscatel because of how fresh the dark fruit notes feel in the 10.1. I could see some other kind of thing like a Moscatel, The 10.1 is great. It's really great. The 9.1 with that grip. Wow, I mean, even on the nose, it's got this grip. And now that I'm kind of dialed into the 9.1 a little bit more with this cranberry orange thing, with this honey, with this little bit of this cornbread, there's also a nice cinnamon stick note in the 9.1. So if 10.1, let's see, what would 10.1 be? I don't know. I don't want to say Christmas, but 9.1 is definitely Thanksgiving. Like when I drink 9.1, I feel Thanksgiving cranberry sauce. I'm put in the mind of Thanksgiving, cinnamon stick, a little of this toasty cornbread thing. Totally. But man, does it have that tannic grip. Okay. So let's go on to 8.1. And 8.1 is a much brighter, let's say lighter color. And I'm going to look at 8.1 is at 45.1% ABV, which is the same as 10.1. And I think that's all we need to know. Since we're not going to get cask information on this, let's check out 8-1. Ooh, right away, like a pineapple note. Pineapple, green apple skins. A little bit of a chlorine thing, and sometimes I call that note on rum. This is not as overt as that, so that might not be exactly correct. Maybe it is, though. I mean, it feels a little rummy, the 8.1, because if I'm going pineapple on this, if I'm feeling a little of this chlorine, a little bit of this green apple peel, these feel like rum type notes to me. I would not put any money on the fact that they're using rum casks in this. But at the very least, I think it's interesting. That's where this profile leans, though. It leans tropical. It leans like... Yeah, it's like perfectly ripe pineapple. That's so dumb to say that, but it is that specific. Like perfectly ripe pineapple on the 8-1 with a little bit of sugary sweetness to it. And vanilla. I mean, this one particularly has a vanilla cream component to the 8-1. Yeah, so that this feels like super fresh to me. The 8-1, coconut even, you know, I think this is feeling like a lot of ex-bourbon, you know, along those lines, this American oak feel, possible rum kind of feel. That's where the profile sits. As you go 9-1, you get, to me, you feel more sherried. And then when you get into 10-1, you get this really dark but fresh fruit. So all of these are so different up to this point. That's very cool. You know, Black Art is something I've always seen on the shelf. Looked at the price tag and went, oh my gosh, I don't know about this. They're all great in their own way. Oh, yeah. 8-1 is like the bourbon lover in me loves 8-1. Oh, man. Very sweet. Less complexity in 8-1. So I think, to me so far, 10.1 is probably the most complex of these three. 9-1, the most intense. 8-1, the least complex, the easiest drinker, I would say. But again, I think they're all mood pours for me. It's not, I don't drink any of these three and think that there's like an obvious issue or something that I would complain about necessarily. I do think 8-1's a little less exciting. Does 8-1 immediately when I smell it and taste it feel like a very old scotch that would have this price tag? Maybe not. I don't think that if I had it blind, I would peg it as something like a Black Art necessarily. But regardless, it's great whiskey. As I go back to the 9-1, interestingly, and this is what makes this fun, is to just flip back and forth. Because doing different side-by-sides within this 4-pour flight, I think is going to tease out different notes, you know, between these different pours. As I go from the 8-1 back to the 9-1, there's like a stale bread note in the 9-1 that I would have never, I don't think, picked up on. I did say something about toasted cornbread actually on there, but when you come off the 8-1 to the 9-1, and I don't know if anyone else in the chat besides Mike can actually do this because he sent me both of these. When you go to the 9-1, there's this stale bread thing that comes out, like stale wheat bread or multi-grain bread. That's so funny. Mike says, yeah, 9-1 versus 8-1 is night and day. And yeah, what are you guys like? What are your experiences with these Black Arts? I'd be curious to just people that have tried one, even just one, or you know, multiples, or even side by sides. Like, what is your overall impression? Like, do you find that this is worth the money at around $450? I mean, obviously the age statements are great. The proofs aren't terrible. You know what I mean? They're not dialed up like crazy, but the proofs aren't terrible. And are these cask strength, by the way? Or are these proofed down? Mike says, can confirm the stale bread on the 9.1. I love it, man. I'm glad I'm not crazy on that. So all things considered on paper, I feel like you're getting a pretty good deal besides the lack of transparency in the blend, but I think that's also part of the allure, you know, of the Black Art thing and the beautiful branding, the beautiful packaging. But what do you think from a value perspective and just overall if you've tried them? You know, how would you classify this? Bucket list thing, says Sean. So these are low cask strength. That's great. Okay. So you can't complain about that. Mike says exactly, and trying to pick them apart and speculate like Cam is doing here is what makes them fun. Yeah, I think this is kind of fun to think about and speculate on. So Sean says, my understanding of the Black Art line is that old stocks 23 to 29 years are rebarreled in several wine casks to create a flavor profile. Well, it's working. It's definitely working. Okay. Avery said a little bit earlier, the Bunnahabhain cask strength to me is more, and Avery, which release do you have, by the way? More effervescent on the tongue than in the mouth and stomach as a bourbon. Curious if all the scotches are this way as far as mouthfeel. Effervescent, yeah, maybe. And if it is cask strength, the Bunnahabhains, you know, they're not super old. And I think there's a particular way that cask strength scotches drink, let's say around 12 years old and under. There's a certain way they drink to me that is, like, I think effervescence, not quite the word I would use, but I don't have a better word, so let's go with that. There's a certain field where I do feel like often I need to proof them down, unless it's a really special cask at a younger age. But when you get into those, yeah, these kind of cask strengths from mainstay distilleries that are released in a batch product form, I think oftentimes I do like to proof those down. Like, I think Mitch sent me a Glendronach cask strength. I've had some Glenallachie cask strength. I do feel like they need to come down just a bit because they have this, like, I don't know a better word than effervescent, but it feels a little bit overbearing on the palate in this kind of bright way. Lido says, I would buy another one for sure, but I don't need to have every single. I think that's a good point, Lido, and I'm finding that too. It's like, of these three, if I think I'd rather pick a favorite and buy two of them than to buy all three to have them to side by side, you know, all the time. I think dialing in on one, finding one that I like, dialing in on it, grabbing two of them, to me feels like a better move. And then just kind of waiting to see what the next one is like rather than blindly pulling the trigger at 450. Unless that's affordable to you and you're a collector, in which case, you know, have at it. Jesse says, I think they're worth the price. All of them are top-tier scotches and 25-plus year scotch at cask strength. Yeah, on paper, too. Yeah, the stats are there to back up the price for sure. I'm going to go back to 8.1 quickly, and then this 4.1 is calling my name. The one thing about the 8.1 that I love, it is more straightforward with these kind of like I said, these sweet tropical fruit notes, this coconut, this vanilla cream, honeys. But I love the oak profile on the 8.1. The way that there's an old oak note in here. If you guys have ever had like a Glenfarclas 25, there's a certain oak note. I'm not talking about the leather note in Glenfarclas 25, which is distinct for me, but the old oak presence in that kind of an oak is what I'm picking up in the Black Art 8.1. But it's so it's blended in so perfectly with some of those tropical fruit and what feel to me like bourbon cask kind of notes, that it's a great harmony of those notes. It doesn't stand alone as like an oak note that feels separate from the rest of the whiskey. Sometimes I like an overbearing oak note that stands alone, but in this case, I think the balance is really neat. Again, it's not that complex, but it's fun. So now, here's a 23-year-old Black Art 4.1, And what's the proof on this one? Going back in time now. So Jim McEwen's his last one. This is higher proof here. This is going to be 49.2, so the highest of the bunch. Roy, I'm at 4.1 right now. I just started. So Avery, you got the 2023. I've got that one behind me, and I'm just not super familiar with it yet. I've only tasted it once. Holy shit. Okay, so the 4.1, and this is, yeah, so 6 years younger. Man. Wow, it's like in a completely different league on the nose. I don't know if it's in just a different way or a better way, you know? Jeez. I tell you what, again, I don't mean to bring it back to American whiskey, but 4.1 smells like a dusty bourbon in a lot of ways, or like a, you know what actually it smells like? It smells like an old Armagnac. It has elements of like a 30+ year Armagnac in here. Yeah. like just musty oak. Yes, kind of dark brandy notes punctuated by, yeah, there are these dark brandy notes punctuated by like cinnamon spice coming up through it. It's like if you I watched a video of somebody, like some stupid thing. I was scrolling through my phone, reels of someone getting tattooed, and this woman passed out, and the kid goes, "She's dead," and it was his mom. It was like so ridiculous. But this makes me, when I say it's like punctuated by cinnamon spice, imagine this layer is this like brandy note, and then you're just tattooing it with cinnamon spice, you know? That's a stupid analogy, but it's, you know, it's just all there. It's just punctuating that note. Wow. And it's got that old, like, kind of dusty bourbon oak note to it. Wow, Lido, man, this would be so up your alley. Dude. I got to just take a sip of this and come back to it because, yeah, this is like butterscotch on the nose. I'm not used to smelling a scotch like this. Like 8.1 through 10.1, these all smell like old scotch in their own ways. And then you go to the 4.1. It is in a different league of how it smells. Now, we'll taste it and see if it's like that much better on the palate, but oh my God. Oh, jeez. Wow. Jesse, so Jesse, who's in the chat with us, Whiskey Problems. Jesse, what do you think about this? I think this is wow. I think that is remarkable. I mean, and what's crazy is how good the other three are. And then you taste this. And I don't think I'm looking at that with rose-colored glasses just because it's Jim McEwen's last blend. It's, you know, it's a few years, older than the 8.1 in terms of release date, not in terms of actual age. I don't think I'm looking at it with rose-colored glasses. I mean, oh my God. I mean, it really is. It's dark. It's so dark. Like I said, these kind of Armagnac brandy notes. Wheated bourbon sweetness. Weller 12 sweetness, but not current day Weller 12, like old 2013 Weller 12. It has that kind of sweetness to it, which reminds me, weirdly enough, of like it has a Moscatel finish thing. I know we talked about that on 10.1, but that old school Weller 12 sweetness has like a Moscatel kind of dark fruit sweetness to it. This has that punctuating like cinnamon note. It actually smells overproof. This is 49.2, I think is what it said. Yes, this smells over 49.2 for me, which is great. Feels like you're getting even more bang for your buck proof wise. And then this butterscotch thing. Antique store, you know? And the palate, you know, the palate is a little sharp, actually, on the front. Like, it not only does it smell a little higher proof, it kind of drinks over proof just a bit. And I might actually throw some water. Might pour just a bit more of this and throw some water in it. It's a little sharp on the front of the palate. And it ramps up and it feels pretty prickly as it goes back. I feel like the other black arts, I think across the board, even though the 9.1 is a little more tannic, a little more cranberry orange, sherry forward, all three of them, as they arrive on the palate, they're soft, they're inviting, they're kind of that relaxed old Scotch feel, largely speaking, between the three. This has like the aggression of a younger Scotch on the front of the palate. 23 years old, so it is younger than the others, but you don't quite expect that maybe from a 23-year-old. It's good. It's very good. Okay, let's throw just a little bit of water in that. So there's Jesse says, I have the 4, 6, 9, and 10. Okay. It's a close call between 4 and 6. Interesting. Both are special whiskeys, both in my top 10 scotches. Yeah, I would have to put this 4.1 in my top. Let me think. I guess top 10 is fair for me. Top 5 might be tough. Obviously, the Lagavulin that Roy sent, far and away at the top of the list. And as it should be for a bottle of that price, you know. The Glendronach, to me, Glendronach 18 is still some of my top whiskey. Obviously, it wasn't 18 years old exactly when it was bottled in 2017 and 2019. I have my single cask Glendronach that I love. Lump all of that together into one spot, maybe. You know, that's in the top 5 pretty easily. Another random Scotch that's in my top 5, actually. Let me grab it. I don't know if you guys maybe have had this or not. I'm running low, and I have one backup, and I'd love to find another. This is the Campbelltown Festival 2020 release, the Tawny Port from Glen Scotia. This Scotch, to me, is incredible. Incredible. There's something about the balance in this, the cask, the way that it blends together, the fact that this is peated Glen Scotia, the way this works together, I think is amazing. But so saying top 5 is tough, but easily top 10 for this black art. Who knows? Doesn't really matter, you know. Doesn't, in the grand scheme of things, it's great. William Davilar, what's up, man? Let me get a little water in this cap here. That's too much. And I slurped it all up. Well, clip that. Okay, let's try this one more time. I need the Ralphie spoon. Okay. So we got a few drops in here with this 4.1. The last thing I want to do is overwater this thing. There's not enough of this to go around. Oh, that took that sharp edge off of this. Oh, man. Let's see here. Scott says you have to take each one for what it is. When doing a blind of several bourbons, it can be misleading. Just saying, if tasting several different bourbons, you need to stop and try them separately. Yeah, I think there's something to be said about doing the side-by-side, which can then either reveal things about certain whiskeys or also it can confuse you about certain whiskeys sometimes because you might not pick those things up in an individual tasting. So I think it's interesting to examine a whiskey, let's use that word, as an individual entity, and then to also put it in various contexts to see how it plays out. That's like the real nerdy part of me that enjoys digging deeper that way. Now, what I've never really done is, I guess I've never really written down those results and tracked them over a period of time. I just try to remember it in my head, and that's faulty, as we all know. But largely speaking, I think you can glean enough from those comparisons to not need to necessarily journal it all the time. But I do think that is a fun part of doing, again, like just recontextualizing the whiskey in any opportunity, or any chance that you get to do that. Wow. Okay, so Black Art 4-1, few drops of water. Now this thing, whereas before it had this aggression to the front of the nose and the front of the palate, and I think that aggression, it was like oak spice, a little bit generic in some ways. Like it wasn't necessarily like a cinnamon thing that I was getting clearly. Just feels like oak spice. Yeah. Now that has dialed back, and it legitimately smells now like an old Armagnac. It has the softness and those round edges. When I think of Armagnac, even cast strength stuff, there's this roundness when you smell it. This Black Art now with some water has that. Jeez. It's sweetened up so much. Such a humongous vanilla note on this now, which was there before, but not in this capacity. So it softened it up, but it doesn't keep it from ramping up and developing at all. So the water to this actually, I think, is in some ways necessary for it to like reach its full potential, I would say. Whereas these other ones, I think I could try water in these, but I think at the lower cask strengths that they have and the softer profile already, it might hurt those whiskeys. I think this one, you might want to throw a few drops in it, if you have the chance to try this 4.1, which I'm so lucky. Thank you, Jesse, for sending this. And I'm lucky for everyone, Mike, Lido, for sending these other ones. What a cool flight. What a cool flight. And I don't think there's a loser in the flight. I would say the least complex is probably the 8-1. That's stale. It's so weird. You go off the 8-1 to the 9-1. You get this stale wheat or multigrain bread note. Crazy. That 9-1, though. The grip is so good. All right, let's see here. Awful Crown says the Scotia Malt Fest 2019 is my favorite Scotia. I haven't had the 2019. The rum cask mixed well with peated distillate. I'm not a huge rum cask person, but I am. I'm more forgiving of the rum cask thing with Scotch than I am American whiskey. I think with American whiskey, it gets so sweet and just, kind of gets nasty for me. With Scotch, I think it usually mingles a little bit better. Yeah, Lido, for me, I mean, let me do the 10. Now that I've watered the 4-1 down, let me do 10-1 next to 4-1. I love this 10-1. It's so great. I mean, I'm still getting these like chocolate. I said chocolate covered raisins earlier. I don't know if I would. Maybe that's right. I mean, maybe that's like a raisinette note in here, but it's not quite as dry as that would suggest. Once you water the 4.1 down, it is much more comparable then to the 10.1 in flavor profile and drinking experience. When it's not watered down, it stands alone because it's so damn intense. Man, there's not a loser here. The sherry heads are going to go for 9.1. If there's someone that likes a more clean profile, like if you're someone that prefers a Springbank 10 over a Springbank 15, then you're going to go for the 8.1, right? The 8.1 feels more direct, more, little less complex. Yeah, but, I mean, I think if I had to pick a winner, I'm going to pick that 4.1 because you can play with it with water, maybe a little bit better than the others could. And that profile is so unique to me. So this is, I would say that's my winner, but man, these are so close. And then selfishly, I love the dark profile of the 10.1, so that might be my second place. 9.1 in third and 8.1 in last, but I don't think there's a loser. Rum cask always hit or miss, even on Scotch, but the Scotia Maltfest 19 is a jackpot. Okay. William Davila says, anyone try the Black Arts 11-1? I was thinking that someone sent me a sample of that, but I looked around and I couldn't find it, so maybe I'm imagining things. What is the 11-1 like? Is it another 29 year? Oh no, 24. Oh wow, at 88.4, so 44.2, which is basically right where 9.1 was. 44.1, I believe. Okay, and it sounds like the notes I'm reading here from the Whiskey Wash says orange marmalade, dried apricots, caramel butterscotch, richly fill the nose, candle wax, green apple. Sounds like it's on the brighter side of things. Maybe more closely linked than to the 8.1, but who knows? Yeah, Springbank 10. I pulled it out, It's like, hey, we're doing a Scotch live stream. I just got to start pulling bottles. Yeah, an amazing bottle. Obviously, I haven't had that much of this one, but come on. I'm going to tip over here. Oh, something just came in here. Whoa. Okay. It's like, that is quite the super chat. It's not a super chat on PayPal. I was very confused what just happened. Oh, that's funny. Good evening. What's up? So we're now through this flight, and I'm going to have a little final sip here, this 4.1. Oh my God. I'll say this, guys. If you're looking to spend, quite a bit of money on auction, at auction or on secondary, something like that, and you find like a 4.1 around that 750 mark, and you're looking to spend that kind of money, that's a cool bottle. I would not caution you against spending that money on that bottle. Obviously, I think everybody in the room right now, we are probably more accustomed to spending that kind of money on a Scotch rather than an American whiskey. So I think it's easier to talk about higher price tags like that amongst this crowd. And I would say that 4.1 would be one to throw in that mix. Brett says, just picked up a Springbank 15. Haven't cracked yet, but it's my first Springbank. You might want to crack it soon, man. It's a very good one. The batches do vary quite a bit from my experience. I'm not somebody that knows all the different, date codes and things to expect, but I used to have a batch from, I believe, 2019. I've got this one, which, let's see, is August of 23. And then I did receive, out of all the samples in front of me, let's see what I can do. Let's see if I can find it. That's a Springbank 12 cast strength that I forgot to put in my video review, the 2021. Here we go. Javier sent me a 2022 January batch of the Springbank 15, so probably an interesting comparison. I still say, though, that this bottle is just remarkable. Price tag considered, even on secondary. The Hazelburn 15. My God. Yeah, I need to check out this Campbelltown lock thing. I can't imagine that we get it in Ohio with our state-controlled stuff going on here. But let me type in Campbelltown and see if it pulls anything up on the site. No. It was just the Glen Scotia Icons of Campbelltown, The Mermaid pops up. What is this? Unpeated, finished in Palo Cortado, bottled at 54.1. This release, the first of 5, is a rare choice. $150. It says coming soon. Campbelltown, The Mermaid from Glen Scotia. Yeah. So definitely no Campbelltown lock in Ohio, which sucks. Yeah, Travis, laser codes matter. Or laser code master, excuse me. Well, I'll begrudgingly accept that title. Okay. Lido, yes, I do have a sample of that 10-year Springbank local barley. Let's not go there just... I'm happy to taste that on this. I thought about making a video for it, but let me see. It's a 2023. I'll have a teeny sip on this stream. But I did want to make a video for it because if it is a recent release, something still may be available to some folks, you know, probably on secondary, let's be honest. But something more recent, I'll put it here at the front of the table so I don't forget. Yeah, man, the Hazelburn 15 is some special stuff. I mean, how crazy that kind of stuff is at that price point. I don't know. I get giddy thinking about that bottle. I can't put it down, so I can't even pull it out or else I start drinking it. Oh, it says you don't have to. I just want to make sure I send it. Yeah, we'll see. And Lita, we'll see how this goes. I have the 3 that I definitely want to taste because I put them on the thumbnail would be the Kavalan. Every time I say it, I'm gonna alternate Kavalan or Kavalan. The Kilkerran, which I only thought I had the 16, and then I realized I also have the 12. So I guess we gotta do both. The good thing about Scotch Dreams is I drink way less, so there's a sustainability factor here. I need to continue to adopt that approach in the Thursday night streams. And there was one more, the Highland Park, but I'm looking around for it. There we go, Highland Park cast strength, and this is batch 1 actually, so the 2020. This is a little older. Sorry if some of you guys maybe have more recent batches of this, but this would be my first Highland Park cast strength. I have had a few sips of this one. So with that said, let's move on to the Kavalan Lan, and we're gonna throw this in a Bennuaine glass. Color on this is crazy. And is it solist or soliste? Someone else tell me that too. Kavalan, at least in Vino Barrique. And what does the price tag on these things look like? Around 200. Okay, around 200. Really nice dark color. Travis, any thoughts on Lagavulin 12 cask and what's a decent price? Honestly, I've never had it, so someone else in the chat is going to give you much better advice than I would. So list, says Lido. I think I've heard that, yeah. So I'm on their website now, and it says it's fully matured in used American oak wine. Okay, yeah. I was going to say, look at the color. And given the name, Barrique. American oak wine barrels that have been toasted and recharred in a way that brings out fruity vanilla notes from the overlaid on a delicate background of complex fruitiness. Okay, it has a complex, and we've already used that word, multi-dimensional background of. I don't need to read all the notes, but so it's American oak basically, X-wine American oak. Cool bottle. I love the color, the kind of royal, almost royal blue type thing. Color, flavor, palette, tasting. Okay, and are these single barrels? Yeah, they are single. Single cask. Yeah, okay. 54.8% ABV. So 109.6. Let's see. Oh my God. If I smelled this on the nose, blind, I might think this is a bourbon. 100%. I might think that this is a Cabernet finished bourbon on the nose. Little bit of, not sulfur. A little bit of rubber on this one. Oh, so this smells really good. I want to say that before I start calling out notes that make it sound bad when I say rubber. There are a few aspects here that are interesting. When I read, I could be putting this together, power suggestion. When I read that these are recharred casks, there's something about this. It says toasted and recharred in a way that brings out fruity vanilla notes. There's something about this that makes me think of that on the nose. Like it has this additional, kind of kick to it with that rubbery char thing. It's almost like that Sagamore double oaked nose where you get that kind of rubber element. Or if anybody here bought the Junkies, the Dusty Junkies backbone pick with the wave stave barrels, this has some of that in there. But this is just an intense nose. It does not feel like a scotch. Yeah, they are. This is a Taiwanese whiskey, I do believe. Lito says, my memory is crap. Did I send that? Yeah, Lito, this is from you, man. It smells really good. In terms of fruit notes on this, I'm going to go with it. Like I mentioned that it feels like there's a Cabernet kind of element to it. I'll stand by that. And then I'll add to it that just a big cherry note. It's not the craziest, darkest cherry note, but just standard cherry. Let's go with that. Damn. That's just intense. Man. You know what? Oh, chocolate. There's so much chocolate on this and coffee that I would not necessarily have expected on the nose. I mean, the nose feels a little more rubbery, a little more intense, like caramelized barrel notes. The palate is so chocolatey and espresso coffee forward. Oh, sheesh. Pretty good management, too, of the cask on this, because I think when you get these kinds of notes, these rubber notes, these are things that come through on modern day Michter's Toasted Barrel Rye. When the Junkies did that wave stave backbone pick, I think it was overdone on the oak profile. I think it was just kind of blown out of the water, but an interesting experiment to see what you can get out of those wave stave barrels. Same thing with Sagamore Double Oak. This manages to balance that intensity of the rubber chocolate espresso in a much better way than those other whiskeys that I mentioned. I often hear from people that if you're trying to get a scotch, let me think about this. If you're trying to get a bourbon drinker into scotch, okay, we'll go to the Deanston Virgin Oak, go to the Glenfiddich 14, insert something dealing with Virgin Oak, right? That's going to give you all these kind of big bourbon-esque flavors. I don't always agree with that. I think some of those flavors can still be so malt forward in those whiskeys that it turns people off. If you give them this whiskey, which is not a scotch, but it's getting them closer to that profile, the intensity of this and the characteristics of the oak, I think this is going to be a total gateway drug for an American whiskey drinker to get into whiskeys using barley as the grain, right? Single malt whiskeys. This is a 5-year Lido. Oh, Jesus. Yeah, see, That's crazy. What is this note? It's a kind of like a root beer Dr. Pepper kind of thing on here too. Let's break it apart with some water. Yes, cola notes for sure. This is like I think I said this recently about something, either in a live stream or a review. This is like the Napa Cab, which is hilarious because it literally could have been aged in a Napa Cab barrel, given the fact sheet on it, right? X wine American oak. This is like the Napa Cab of single malt whiskeys. Because it's just so in your face. Oh, the water. The water softens all of this barrel intensity on there. And you can get into more of it now. So as this thing takes water, it lightens up a bit. You lose the sharp edge of the kind of bitter rubber barrel char kind of thing on the nose. It opens up into more of like a caramelized orange profile. Yeah. Okay. There's kind of like a Manhattan thing going on in here. And it actually smells older when you throw water in it. It's like opening up this leather note as well. Oh, yeah. Put water in this. What do you think, Lito? I think this whiskey with water, I mean, I think it's kind of it's a really cool whiskey, even without the water. I think you throw a little water in it, and this thing comes to life. Man. Yeah, okay. And now we're hitting the breaking point with the water where now I'm starting to smell grain notes. And that's, I think, when you know you've gone a little too far with the water, you get deep into the grain notes. Well, on the palate, I think it's still hanging in there. So that would be my advice on that. Haven't had it with water yet. I know, shame on me. No, man, look, I'm the one that needs to start putting water in my whiskey in the reviews. But, wow. Dude, that's a great whiskey. And, you know, I talked about the soda notes when it was at cast strength. Root beer, Dr. Pepper, cola. Even now, as I drink it with quite a bit of water in it, number one, the chocolate note is still so strong. But there's still this effervescence to it. Even though the water is like proofing it down, it maintains this effervescence and the way that it feels on the palate, this fizzy kind of nature. That's just a hard whiskey to stop drinking. So I like that stuff. Is it a little bit, is it the Napa Cab of single malt? Is it a little overdone, kind of? You know, if Jeb's still in here, Jeb would call this a slutty whiskey. I would say that that's kind of where this falls for me. But those are things like, look, I'm just dipping my toe in wine. I love drinking a big oak bomb Napa Cab. Sorry. I sometimes that's what you want. And so more times than, you might want to admit. And that's what this is for me in single malt form. Okay, so we're going to move on to a Kilkerran side-by-side now. And because these are at 46, I'm going to be putting these in these Luigi Bormioli glasses, which do concentrate, I think, a little bit more of the flavors to the nose. Now, not that you really need... When you're talking Kilkerran, you don't need that too much, but... Either way, I think the Bennuaine glasses are particularly good for cast strength whiskeys, right? Whether it's American or Scotch. I love to drink Heaven Hill 17 out of a Bennuaine. and that's high quality cask strength that is not really too hot. Whether it's like that or whether it is super hot, these are my favorite glasses to drink out of. But for something more approachable, 46, 43%, I love going to these Luigi Bormiolis. They're a little more of a sturdy glass, certainly more affordable, with that taper at the top and less volume overall in the glass as well. William Davlar, thanks, man. Says, I appreciate the Sunday night scotch. Thank you. Dude, I appreciate the super chat. Thank you so much. That's awesome. You and Roy, you guys totally did not need to super chat. Tonight is all about just hanging out and nerding out about some scotch. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's been a busy week. How am I going to get a video out tonight? And I thought about waking up this morning before a rehearsal on a concert. I'm like, maybe I'll record a video at 9:30 in the morning when Sarah, leaves in the morning. Like, maybe I'll record a video this morning. It's like, I don't want to drink scotch at 9:30 in the morning and shoot. So then I just got home tonight. And I was like, I'm just going to go live. I think this will be fun. And then as I was setting the thumbnail up, I just realized, why not do this once a month where we can do a scotch stream? Because so many samples are here. And throughout the month, I'm going to be getting reviews out of some of them. But there's no way to get to all of these. And then we can do a live stream and cover a lot of bases. And if nobody watches, then nobody watches. And that's fine too. So... thanks, William. Thanks, Roy, and everyone for being here. What's up, Toshi? Hey, Toshi, I owe you a message about the meetup in Kentucky, which the Dark Arts thing probably is not a good idea to do at the same time, given the fact that your schedule's so insane. And so I'll just try maybe plan that for a different time. And also, I need to email them back and talk about what works for them. But no matter what, I don't know what I can jump in on. Like, I don't know how that works with you guys signing up for different, there's different tours and stuff, but we'll talk, and whatever I can jump in on, or whatever maybe like 2-day window makes the most sense, that would be cool to come down and jump in and hang out with you guys. I just don't want to crash. I don't want to crash your party, I'll be the odd one out. So, but I'm looking forward to meeting you, man. It's been on my I put it on my calendar from Thursday to Sunday. It just says Toshi, Kentucky hold, Okay. All right, so on now to these Kilkerrans, and I've tasted some of these before, earlier releases. I remember liking them. The only Kilkerran I own is the Oloroso, the 8-year cask strength, 57.1, the one that everybody, I think it was the 2019, that everybody was talking about. I sampled this out quite a bit, a little more than I should have. I'm just kidding. Better to share it, because I haven't picked this bottle up in probably 6 months. But this is the only Kilkerran I own. I've tasted through, a few of these earlier ones. And I've heard a lot of complaints about Kilkerran, actually. I know there's a huge contingent of people that love this stuff. They love the funky, peaty thing that's going on. If I recall, it might have been Top Shelf Whiskey. It may have been Mike and Dustin that were talking about Kilkerran in a negative way. You guys would probably know better than I, but I remember watching some of their videos and thinking, oh, that's interesting. Was it Kilkerran, or I don't think it was Long Row. I think it was Kilkerran. Devin, dude, I know, man. Like, the whiskey rabbit hole financially is very dangerous. Depending on everybody's personal situation. I have moments where I spend look, you guys saw it on Thursday night, buying that damn Old Forester employee bottle, which is going to be here on Tuesday. And I told Sarah about it, and she was stoked, which is a problem. Usually I tell her, like, hey, I spent this much money on a bottle, and she's like, oh my God, what are you doing? Thursday night happens. Next morning, I'm like, hey, so remember that employee bottle? Yeah. I said, you liked it, right? And she was like, oh yeah. I'm like, good. She's like, why? Well, I may have bought one last night. But then I said, maybe we can, open it on an occasion or something. She's like, no, we're opening it the minute we get it. I'm like, okay, cool. So next Thursday night's live stream, we're giving away samples of the Old Forester employee bottle for sure. The 15th anniversary 13th Colony will be in that mix as well, and some other stuff too. What's up, Nikolai? Yes, cheers for 2+ hour Scotch Sunday. Lito says Dustin especially tends to crap on younger whiskey more. Okay. That's a good data point then. Toshi, yeah, the Willet. So that to me sounds fun. I've never been to Willet. I would love to. That would be a great time to meet up and hang. Because also when I go down, Toshi, like I'm not trying to intrude on you guys. You guys do your thing. I've got a buddy in Lexington that we want to shoot some podcasts and stuff together. So it might all work out, Like I still want to go down for at least 2 days, if not 3. Pop in and hang out with you whenever works for you, and then maybe do some other stuff too. Brian, I'm not getting a sample of the Heaven Hill 18. Look, we can pretty assuredly say Heaven Hill's not sending me a damn thing, but I'll still say they're my favorite American distillery. But after the laser code shenanigans, they would I don't know. They're going to avoid that, I think. But I'm going to buy a bottle on secondary because I want one pretty bad. And I'm making some unfortunate decisions of selling a few bottles from the bunker to afford that. But I've only seen one pop up on secondary, and I missed it. So I'm keeping my eye out. I wanted to get it this week if I could, but I know people have been getting media samples, so I know I won't be the first one to get a review out, and that's fine. So hopefully in the next week and a half, I could get a bottle of Heaven Hill 18. Okay, let's get to these Kilkerrans now. Let's go to the 12-year. These are both 2023 releases, both 46%. This says blend of X bourbon, X sherry. And the 16-year, a little more complex here, 65X sherry, 30X bourbon, and 5 rum. All right, so on to the 12. Brian, I thought Heaven Hill was cool with you geeking out. It felt maybe not that way. I mean, also consider that video was the thing that kicked it all off, and that obviously I couldn't have never planned for that. But that video being the one that kicked that shitstorm off for them, and then putting their PR person to send us all the same boilerplate email, I'm sure they weren't happy about that. Although it did give them a lot of press, probably, like in the at least in the enthusiast community, which frankly, that's not going to incentivize anyone to buy a bottle of Elijah Craig Barrel Proof because we're all enthusiasts. We would have bought those bottles anyways. At the end of the day, who knows what their value judgment or how they viewed that on their end. But I can pretty much imagine that anyone that heard about that in the company would not be willing to send me any samples, But also, it's a big company, so who knows how far word travels internally. Okay, Kilkerran 12. I need a point of reference for this. And my point of reference is going to be Springbank 10. Yes, we're going to do Springbank 10. And I'll throw it in here. I'll throw it in a Copita glass. So both 46%. Yeah. Okay. And I know Springbank stands alone in its kind of profile, but I just need a point of reference here for something around this age range at this proof with a kind of dirty peat profile. There's something about the Kilkerran 12 that's wigging me out. Like, I know we're talking barley here, but it smells that young bourbon corn grain note that you get on really young products. The Kilkerran 12 has something like that to me. Very grain forward. Grain, bright vanilla, menthol. Yeah, and bright fruit skins, very kind of like bitter, bitter sour kind of fruit notes. I like it, but at the same time, when I try to objectively think about this, like I love a dirty peat profile whiskey, but when I objectively try to think about this whiskey, it feels underwhelming actually in some way. Huh. Yeah, God, the word generic comes to mind. I hate to say that about Kilkerran. It just doesn't show a lot of integration with the base spirit and the cask. Like I feel like I'm getting cask notes that are over here and spirit notes here, and it's just not coming together the right way. Kind of the same thing on the palate. Like, I would drink this and love it any day of the week. Fine sipper. Wow, very sour on the finish. Ooh. It's got tang to it. Wow. So the finish is fun because it veers off. It feels sweet, bright, lively, young, for sure. Then you get to the finish, and it's really sour. Yeah, I can't say that I love that. It just feels fine. But it's a 12. So, okay. Where exactly in the market, let's say, does Kilkerran 12 fall? Because I think that context is pretty important. Price on this would be... These are online. Yeah, it's tough. Total Wine has it at $93.99. That's pretty reliable. $93.99 for this, huh? Would this be considered an entry level from Kilkerran? They don't have like an NAS or anything like that, right? I know they were releasing like those. What do they call it? I'm looking at it here. They were releasing like some really young stuff. What was it called? I never owned or tasted it, but I just saw it coming out. Kilkerran, work in progress. The work in progress stuff they were doing. But I would imagine the 12 is the... Yeah, so it says here on Dramface, 12 is the entry-level flagship at the core range. Look, as an entry-level product, when you consider other entry levels, particularly, like, let's go with this. It's right here. Bruichladdich, Classic Laddie. This suffers from the same problems at half the age, basically, that the Kilkerran is suffering from. And it's in its distillery profile evolution, it feels like, where it's just not... It comes off young. It comes off like the cask and the spirit aren't integrated well enough. I think it's a fine whiskey, but this is not like a run out and buy. Like when you have a Springbank 10, right? The cask they're so well integrated with the base spirit. 2 years less age. That is like, okay, it's an expensive entry level product, but you got to buy it. The Kilkerran is not a run out and buy situation for me. The heavily peated is NAS for Kilkerran, right? And I've tried one of those. I think I liked it actually quite a bit. Mike says the work in progress bottles are big peat and very young. All right. I don't know if I'd be in, I mean, given what the 12 years doing, I'm not sure I'd be into that. So on to the 16 now with more X sherry and a tinge of X rum in there. I feel like I can... This is maybe just me imagining things. I feel like I can even smell the rum, even though it's 5% of the casking. a lot of the problems are solved in this with the additional age. 4 more years. 4 more years. I think is solving some of the problems. Yeah, that's it for me. I think skip the 12 and just go to the 16 for the Kilkerran. That is so much more integrated. To me, you can smell the difference. The more the heavier use of ex bourbon it feels like in the 12 year versus that 65% ex sherry in the 16. To me, that is like an obvious factor in here with how the base spirit is integrating with the cask. It feels like the sherry cask is doing more to marry those things together in the 16. And it could be the sherry, or it could just be time. The extra 4 years helping it. I'm sure it's both. That takes a lot of the same notes of the 12 year. It's rounding it out. But I'm trying to figure out, I mean, you say ex-sherry and you think, okay, red fruits, you know, dry red fruits, almond. I don't want to go generic on the notes on this, though, because that funky Kilkerran profile is making the sherry cask come off not so obviously. Trav, is that going to be your slogan for office? 4 more years? I'll never do something like that. You'll never see a Drums and Drams campaign poster. Oh, God. Oh, God. The things that have happened on the internet that I will never be able to run away from. Yeah. It's so remarkable to me, too, how the 12-year Kilkerran smells like corn grain. Huh. Almost like a raspberry note coming off the 16. Some kind of raspberry thing. Yeah, so I like that. I'd recommend that 16. Let's go on to Highland Park cast strength. Mitch, what's up, man? Agreed, Cam. I have a hard time justifying the Kilkerran 8 cast strength line, even if the price point is fair for Glengyle. I enjoy the heavily peated line more. I do remember enjoying the heavily peated. That sample came in probably 3 years ago at this point. So, yeah, I do. I'll pour this in here where the 16 was. Since this is sherry cask, I'll pour it in the same glass. Like this 8-year cast strength. I know everybody raved about this stuff, and when I tasted it, I loved it. I tasted it actually January 2021 when I went to Jason C's house, Mash and Drum. He gave me my first sip of that Kilkerran 8, this exact one, and I remember falling in love with it at that point. And then like 2 years later, I was able to pick up a bottle. William Davlar, which volume? This is the first batch of the Highland Park cast strength. So I know it's a little older, but it's a sample sent to me by Javier. I don't believe he's in chat tonight, but 63.3% ABV. So yeah, like 2 years after I tasted this, I picked up this this Kilkerran cast strength. And it's also, I mean, it's that recharred cask thing, and it's a little rubbery, you know, and that's kind of what I was talking about with the Kavalan lawn. And I have to imagine that's coming from these recharred casks. But there's like a grilled pineapple note in here, you know, like very barbecue kind of notes in this Kilkerran cast strength. And it's kind of like gasoline, like kind of this petrol gasoline type note. A little grassy, spice. It's not a perfect whiskey by any stretch of the imagination, but I do like it, selfishly. So yeah, Kilkerran to me, it's not something to like fawn over. I think what would interest me about Kilkerran is it seems to me it does better with these ex-sherry casks than it does primarily ex-bourbon. I would be most interested to taste an older Kilkerran solely aged in a sherry cask. I think, hell, even a port cask, you know. But again, I think Kilkerran as a distillery, to me, it feels like it needs more age on it. It's like a wheated bourbon or a wheat whiskey, where 9 times out of 10, those things need a lot more age than a rye bourbon or a rye whiskey. I think Kilkerran comes into itself at this 16-year mark, which is not a young age. So I would love to see what like a 25-year would taste like in an Oloroso cask. You know, what's that going to be? Alpha Crown, yeah, it's the 57.1, and everybody went crazy for that. And look, when I first tasted it, I loved it. When I actually got a bottle, when I first got it, I drank a lot of it up front, and then I was like, I'm not that crazy about this. I mean, I like it, but I'm finding issues with it. And to me, it's just fine now, you know? But it kind of has like a weird special place in my heart, so I do like it, but I'm not buying it back up. Chris B. Live stream idea. 10 to 12 cast strength tastings followed by a vibraphone performance. Yeah. No, I won't play anything tonal after that. I can only play some sort of drums after, where I don't have to play the right notes. All right, Highland Park is next. So what do you guys think? Like, once a month, Scotch live streams on Sundays. I obviously can't do this every week with the Thursday night lives. I think realistically speaking, once a month on these would be doable. But what do you think? Do you like this format for a Scotch stream? We're definitely going to get less folks than we do on the Thursday nights, and I'm not concerned about that. And if you haven't hit that like button, please do. Once a month would be great, says William Davilar. I think it's just a great way to cover a lot of ground. Yeah, Sean. Yeah, this was just this was because of a busy week. And then I realized, well, let's just keep doing it, you know? Oh. Wow. Did not see that coming on the Highland Park cast strength. Alpha Crown says, since Batch 9 is no longer labeled as in progress, I bet it's officially entered into the Kilkerran core range. Okay, interesting. William Davila, there's a lot of bourbon drinkers who also drink Scotch. Yeah. I think, and interestingly, I mean, I think in the Drums and Drams Patreon, I think we actually have a lot of those folks, it seems like. That. I mean, like, for instance, Clay, just good old me, is really into Armagnac, which is cool. And there are some other guys that are into certain things. But I do think there's a large contingent of people that are into Scotch in the Patreon. It would be cool one day to do like a Scotch pick. I don't know how that works. Like being in America with doing a Scotch pick. I mean, I guess it's the same, right? You get a retailer to take the risk on the barrel, but probably a little harder to sell a Scotch pick. And it also depends on like barrel format. If you're buying a port pipe, there's gonna be a lot more bottles to go around. Wow. Okay. Highland Park cast strength batch 1. I'll say this. When I tasted this, probably Carter says, what can you maintain consistently with your schedule? I think, yeah, once a month is maintainable. And the more that I'm getting into the channel and also trying to be careful about consumption and some other things, I think Thursday night live streams are going to end up being at most 3 times a month. 2 is better. Just, yeah, I would say every 2 months. Every 2 months, 5 live streams is like the best way for me to think about it. So it's like 2 in 1 month, 3 in the next, and then throwing maybe one of these in once a month is that feels good to me. And the other thing is that I'm suffering from is doing the weekly dram has been great, keeping me on track. 94% I've been on track, I would say, with what I say in the weekly dram. I say that in a week where I'm not on track because I haven't released the E.H. Taylor Rye video. I'm going to try to get that out before the next weekly dram drops. The thing about saying I'm going to do something consistently, it's a little unrealistic some weeks, and I hate breaking those streaks. But, you know, to officially plan something is tough. Scotch Sunday is the only real thing that I think I've maintained every single week, which is cool. Mike says, I'll do the barrel pick trip to Isla. Dude, a barrel pick trip to Isla would be like a life highlight for me. I've never been to Scotland. So, you know, there's now a Master of Whiskey exam, right? So like the Master of Wine exam. I am going to start doing that. Every other year it moves from Kentucky to Scotland for the level 3 and the level 4 exams. So I'm going to start that process with the goal being that April 2026, I could get to level 4. I could be, you know, have a Master of Whiskey, whatever, certification. I mean, who knows what that really means, but for me as a nerd, that sounds like fun. I think that would be fun, but the reason I'm bringing that up is because one of those years I'll have to go to Scotland to take the exam, and I think that'll probably be the first time I go to Scotland. An American Malt pick says, yes. A few folks were talking about American Malt. William Davila says, or an American Malt pick. Yeah, that's a little more accessible, I think. I haven't drank a lot of American malts, but the ones I have drank, I've not loved a lot of them. But maybe I need to, everyone's talking about Westward, that I need to try Westward. Imagine an Isla pick. Oh, God. Oh, God. All right. Highland Park cast strength. First time I tried this, I loved it. I thought it was going to be overpriced, overhyped schlock, basically. Yeah, Jesse says the Master of Whiskey program is pretty cool, but I'm going to have to wait a bit before I go for level 3. The 6K, I know the price tag is bonkers. But I think it lends some credibility to what you do, and I think it could possibly open up doors. I mean, you never know. Like, you can't plan for these things. You can't say, oh, I want to write for a publication, or I want to do this. Like, things just happen, and I like writing. I like doing content on here. I like doing private tastings. I haven't done any like events yet, but some of those have been talked about, and I've been in the early stages of planning some events. Who knows where it's all gonna lead? But I think at the end of the day, it couldn't hurt, and it's gonna be fun. But 6,000 price tag on those upper tiers is pretty insane. So the first note that I get off the Highland Park cast strength is butter, like just pure butter. Butter, bright cinnamon. This is one of these whiskeys. It's 63.3% ABV. I think Avery was talking about this earlier with the Bunnahabhain Cast Strength 2023. As an American whiskey drinker, he was saying that a lot of these high proof scotches come off with this effervescence. This has this like bright thing on it where it feels like it needs maybe a little bit of water. I know it's intentionally a cast strength product, but it's super tight. There are elements in here of kind of like I'm going to go between dried cranberry, dried raisin, but very, very, very bone dry on the nose. And it's actually it's actually got that saltiness to it. Yeah, it's got that salinity thing. It hits you. Wow, it hits you. It's on the edge of comfort. I think Scotch can get uncomfortable quicker at higher proofs than bourbon. Like this is like the lowest proof Stag Junior ever, but it's way more uncomfortable than drinking Stag 23C. Oh, God, you're going to Scotland, man. We won't make it to Islay this time, though. There's always next time. I saw a beautiful picture from Oban, actually, that was so... it was, like, picturesque. I don't know. It was in some random whiskey group on Facebook. Someone posted a picture from Oban across maybe, like, this... What would you call it? Like a little bit of, like, a bay or, like, an inlet or something. Oh, it's like, I have to be there right now. Yeah, look, I do like this Highland Park Batch 1. My God, is it intense. Small sips on this. Don't let it sit on the palate too long. But I do like it. It has a little bit of that artificial, conditioned sherry cask feel to it, you know? In the finish, you can really get that. Whoops. Okay. Lock, says Sean. There you go. That's a better word for it. Okay, so now, a little bit of water in the Highland Park is bringing out more tropical fruit. This, to me, is like kind of underripe tropical fruit, and that makes sense to me. That you get these younger whiskeys, presumably in this NAS cask strength, it's going to have this underripe character to it. So this kind of like papaya, this kind of underripe papaya mango thing going on. It still maintains this butteriness, though. But it's way better. A few drops of water, and the flavors ramp up on the palate, as opposed to the spice only ramping up on the palate. Again, I think of Scotch, cask strength Scotch, in particular, I guess, there are all of these, like, pointillistic... It's like a scatter plot, you know? And you are trying to draw that line of best fit, you know, through that scatter plot. And you're trying to basically bring together all of those individual points as close as you can to this line. And adding that water, to me, this felt like a really massive scatter plot. And it, like, brought these flavors closer to that line where it feels like there's more of a trajectory on the palate. I'm sorry, I was a math nerd in school, so that's the best way to put it. Now, the addition of water actually brings out sulfur in the Highland Park, which I believe they are owned by Macallan, right? I think the same company owns them. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but if that's the case, then they are most likely using... This makes sense then. Putting this together in my brain, they would be probably using these conditioned sherry casks, which are kind of bad quality, prone to sulfur notes, as Macallan is these days. That's what I'm picking up here. But overall, the drinking experience improves so much with a little bit of water that the sulfur note is so light that I'm willing to just totally let that go. Both under Edrington Group. Okay. I think it needs water, though. I'm going to put a little bit more in. Now we've really brought it down to earth at this point. It's much more honeyed. Yeah, much more honeyed. But once you start bringing it down, the flavors themselves don't feel like they have a lot to offer. It starts to feel kind of bland, and that's probably because the whiskey in here is, you have to imagine it's pretty young if they're not putting an age statement on it. Makes sense in the cask strength product, but it doesn't feel like it has a lot of presence. It's just, you know, I'm getting more cask now, but I don't know. I think the way to drink the Highland Park cask strength for me, throw just a teeny bit of water in it, bring that edge off where not only does the spice ramp up, but then you throw a few drops of water in, the flavors now accompany the spice and the development, brings that scatter plot together, but don't go any further than that, because I think you start to lose actually like profile of the whiskey. Yeah. But that's a fun one. That is definitely a fun one. All right, let's do one final dram. And we might go crazy on this one. It's been a fun stream, by the way. Got this long row red is staring me in the face. This is the Malbec finish from 2020. God, it's staring me down. But let's do a cool one. We could do a little side by side. I have 2 cask strength. I have 2 cask strength Macallan 12 years from 2 different people. Look at that. 2 cask strength Macallan 12s. We could do a side by side. What do you think? Macallan 12 side by side? Cask strength? I think we should maybe do that. Let me clear 2 of these glasses. Let's see here. The batches of Highland Park get even better. Oh, of the cask strength. So, 4 is amazing. That so do they do 1 batch a year then? Because that would make sense, right? If 2020 was the first batch, then we would have just had batch 4. Is it once a year? All right, so you guys are talking about Highland Park distillate. I had a Gordon MacPhail Highland Park 13-year cask, written first fill sherry, but color suggests it's bourbon cask or refill sherry. Super dirty after water added. You guys are talking about the quality of the distillate. Seems to be once a year. Okay. Let's do this Macallan side by side. Why not? The colors looked actually pretty different. Interestingly, these are both Scotch Malt Whisky Society. Voice crack. The one on your right is going to be 24.165. It's called Vintage Clothes. 12 years, 127.4 proof. This is a heater. And this one's Confessions of a Cask, 24.154. And this one is 63 points. So 126.6 versus 127.4. I mean, we're pretty close. Okay. So let's start. Yeah, okay. Let's start with the one on your left, which is the lower number, 24.154. color on this is stupid dark. Like, I mean, you're getting close to ruby colors in this. The darkest orange, burnt orange you can imagine. Okay, wow. First nose is crazy. And the other one, yeah, this is a little bit of a lighter color here. Interesting. So let's start with Confessions of a Cask. Total first fill sherry vibes on this. Not just the color, but the nose. It smells a little bit like a candle in some ways. Like just huge. Oh, God, I don't even know what kind of candle it would be. I don't know. I'm not hip to my Yankee Candle aromas. But there's a little savory element to this. A little bit of like an herbal... what would I call this? Thyme. Like there's like a little bit of this thyme note in here. Yeah. With super dark, sticky sherry fruits. And it's crawling up your nose intensity. And then on to Vintage Clothes, which is, again, a little bit lighter in color, slightly higher proof. Oh, this is way sweeter. This is like... fresh baked... I don't know, some sort of fresh baked cake or something. Milk chocolate on this. The other one would have been more dark chocolate. Yeah. Dark chocolate. I mean, so this Confessions of a Cask reminds me of old Glendronach. It's like earthy, dark, intense sherry. Yeah. And Vintage Clothes has a little bit more of a refill sherry character to it. It's much, much sweeter, more caramel notes, more toffee, like vanillas. This is interesting to taste the range of these cask strength Macallan 12s at the same age. God, that is good. Oh my God. Mitch, this is yours, man. This Vintage Clothes. I know I tasted this once before, and I was tasting it in the midst of doing editing on a live stream for the Patreon, and I can't really remember what I was talking about with it, but this tastes so good. Man. I mean, if all Macallan could taste this way, the world would be a better place. All right, now to the crazy dark one, which I haven't tasted yet. Oh, man, I'm telling you. There's like this savory thing. It's even got that olive oil note that I talk about on some bourbons from the 1960s. Olive oil, even a little bit of this barbecue. Wow. That's not for the faint of heart. Sheesh. It's tough because I think the more balanced would be this slightly lighter version, right, of this Macallan, which is also an incredibly dark whiskey. But when you think about wanting something that's going to compare to like that, when you get a Glendronach cask strength, single cask pick, this Macallan is in that realm of just that intense sherry. Wow. Mike Conklin says world's best Macallan right there. Is it so, Mike? I don't know if you're just kind of saying that generally, or are any of these two casks like particularly well known? Because I'm not familiar with Scotch Malt Whisky Society stuff. Mitch, no man, this is the balance on it, and that's the thing. Like, I guess, and before maybe I didn't appreciate the balance on this because of whatever I had before it. But putting it next to this other Macallan, which is so incredibly sherried, and the Glendronach lover in me loves this, even if it is a little overbearing. But then when you go to the one that you sent, it has this sweeter, more inviting, enveloping thing, even at a higher proof. And it is the more balanced whiskey, you know? Like, objectively speaking, you would probably have to say this is the better whiskey. Mike, these are on another level. The standard offerings from Macallan are dog shit. I mean, and I don't say that lightly about a brand that's so revered. And I've got this 1996, Macallan 18 open, which is very, very good. And I have a 94 in my basement, which I've tasted and I know is even significantly better than the 96 that I've got. So I feel like I've tasted what Macallan used to be, even with big batches and these core age-dated products. But to taste these single casks is a totally different level. So William Davlish says, you need to try Edredar. They only cycle their sherry casks twice before they discard them. Wow. If you want a funky, good sherry for half the price, this is the dram. Mitch did send me an Edredar 12-year, and I still have some remains of a single cask that my buddy Frank gave me. I believe it was a single cask. Maybe like a signatory bottling. Every Edredar that I've had, I have loved it because it has this funky sherry pineapple thing in it that I can't describe. What did you say? A funky good sherry. I'm like totally with you on that. All right, Chris B. Question: current favorite Scotch, a cask strength you've ever had? I mean, it's a little so if I tell you my favorite Scotch I've ever had, which was a cask strength, was that Lagavulin 21, distilled in 85, bottled in 2007, that Roy N sent me a sample of. That was far and away the best Scotch I've ever had, and it was at cask strength at something like 55 something percent. I want to say something more attainable, maybe. I mean, that Black Art 4-1 was good. At cask strength, that limits the field. Yeah, I was turning around to see if there's something behind me that piqued my, that jogged my memory. I don't know. That's a really good question. It's a really good question, and I don't know. Yeah, I need to keep a better log, basically, in my brain of the scotches that I try, because that's just a tough one for me right now. Yeah, I don't know. Well, at any rate, guys, thank you for being here. Thanks for hanging out tonight. This went way longer than I thought, but 2 hours of just sipping on some Scotch samples and picking them apart and doing my best with some of them, which are really tough to get into. And I feel like I found my footing along the way, Like, the more I continue to get back into Scotch, I feel like my palate is retraining itself for this stuff, and you get so used to using the same descriptors for bourbon and rye and American whiskey that you go to Scotch, and it is a paradigm shift. And I want to have them both active. I want to have both vocabularies active at the same time so that I can kind of flex between them. I think it's a better way to operate than, trying to superimpose like American whiskey vocab onto Scotch, because I don't think it's as effective. So thanks for being here, and thanks to everybody for sending these samples. I mean, Lito, Mitch, Mike, Jesse, who else? Javier. Thank you guys for sending these samples and making this stuff possible, and we'll have another one of these probably sometime in April. And in the meantime, you'll see some more Scotch reviews coming out on the channel. And yeah, a lot of good stuff coming. Obviously, first barrel pick. First barrel pick's coming up here soon. That 11-year MGP rye from River Roots at 118 proof, which is just a stellar rye. I'm telling you, you know, if we ever do a pick on the channel where the whiskey is very good and I love it subjectively, but it has like a little fault, I'll tell you the fault. I don't mind that. Honesty is the best policy for something like that. This rye is, I'm telling you, it is one of the best, if not the best MGP ryes I've ever had. Now, that some people are going to say, oh, I love Redemption 18. Okay, well, it's a little different. It's an 11-year rye. It's awesome. So I'm excited about this barrel pick. We've had great growth in the Patreon, and just everything on the channel's trending in the right direction. So I want to say thank you to you guys, and thank you for hanging out on a random Sunday night. So that's it. Are we going to do Irish Sunday next weekend? No, I do have a lot of Irish samples, but no, I'm not going to get into the Irish thing too much. You know, like the Irish thing, maybe I'll hit a phase at some point where I really dive deep. I've tasted the really good ones, the Redbreast 27s and 21s, and I do like them quite a bit. Some of these interesting special, like single cask things from different distilleries. But I think Irish is a little less interesting to me. The flavor profiles seem more vegetal, more muted, less interesting. So we'll see. But cheers, guys. Oh, a few last minute super chats. Thank you, William Davlar. Great quality Scotch stream. Thank you. No, thank you, man, for your generosity tonight. I'm gonna do a Macallan blend, because why not? Balance meets brawn in this Macallan blend of 2 different single casks from the Scotch Malt Whiskey Society. And Chris B says, great stream. Thank you, guys. Cheers. Thank you for the support. And you'll hear from me again tomorrow on the channel. And I have the week off of work this coming week. So stay tuned for some videos. Some 13th Colony videos, I think, might be coming out. That should be interesting. Live stream Thursday night. That's it. Cheers, and thanks, guys.